Mr. Mohan, and a very good evening to all of you. And first of all, congratulations for the participants who have made it into round three, and I really wish you the best. So, in today's program, what I'm essentially going to be doing, it's a repeat of one of the master classes that I conducted a few months back on this platform on slide design. So I'm really happy to bring this back to you all. So the plan for today is I will take you through some of the fundamentals of good slide design, some of the key elements that you need to keep in mind when it comes to creating impactful slides. And the second part of the program is going to be open to all of you, where you can ask me any questions you have when it comes to slide design, and I will do my best to answer your questions. So with that note, let me go ahead, start sharing my screen, and we'll start with today's presentation. Okay. Sorry, please give me a second. Yeah, just trying to hide some of these panels over here. Great. Fine. So welcome to this masterclass on slide design. So today we will be talking about some of the fundamentals of slide design, starting from layouts to colors to images to fonts, animations and transitions. And I will end by giving you some tips that you can really use for enhancing the quality of your slides. So we will first start with layouts. So when you talk about layouts, I think one of the first things that when especially when it comes to the online world and when we talk about presenting things online, is we always love to give this example of a goldfish. I'm sure you would have heard this a million times from a million presenters, excuse me, where they talk about how the online platform is very challenging for training, how the attention span of users and your audience is really shrunk down to something less than that of a goldfish. But one of the things that you need to remember here as trainers is the attention span of people has come down to this extent because of us, right? So content is readily available. Content that we have evolved so much when it comes to content presentation and content design, that is all the attention that it really takes for someone to make absorb content and also to make a decision as to whether their content is good or whether it's something that is pedestrian and they're not something they're not really interested in. So when we talk about this goldfish effect, as trainers, one of the things that we need to remember is how you are going to work with this goldfish effect and how you are going to ensure that you are able to deliver your content, your message, and your call to action within that limited time frame that you have. And one of the biggest tools that will help you make this happen is your slide design. So when we move to the online platform, one of the things that you would have noticed is in a physical classroom, you your physical presence is more dominating than your slide deck, because your slide deck stands about 6 to 8 feet behind you. So you maintain social distance from your slide deck and you stand in the front and you are the prominent one. Whereas now, when it comes to a Zoom meeting or a Google Hangout, you're just a small box to one corner and your slide literally takes up the entire screen. So it is all the more important that your slides are as impactful, because your words are going to carry the message and the slides are going to act as a scaffold to carry your message to your audience. So let's see how we can do that. So like I said, we will start with layouts. The first thing you need to remember when it comes to laying out the components on a slide is you need to understand the hierarchy. So it usually starts with the process of grabbing the attention, then creating a sense of intrigue, and finally delivering your message. So that is exactly what we are going to see. So how to grab your attention, how to create that sense of intrigue, and how to deliver your message through that. For this, you need to understand how our human eyes and our human brain works when we are presented with some information on the screen. And layouts are going to be very, very critical to make you achieve this. So the first component of layout is positioning. So we gather content from left to right, top to bottom, and clockwise. This is how our eyes are tuned to read and absorb material. When we see information on the screen, the first thing we see is the title on the left. Then we look at what is there just below the title. Then our eyes move to the right to see what is there on the right side of the screen. Right? So this is something that you need to remember. So when you are positioning the elements that you have for a particular screen, you need to grade it to the level of importance. For example, let's say that you have a title, a text, and an image. You need to make a decision as to which is more prominent. Is your image more important than your text, or is your text more important than your image? And accordingly, you need to position the elements on the screen. And if you follow this particular technique, suppose if you have some a circular or some sort of a cyclic thing that you want to exchange, some sort of a process, we are accustomed to read things in a clockwise direction. So when you're creating graphics or when you are trying to teach something, it is always best to take it in a clockwise manner, preferably starting from the 12 o'clock position, because that is how we have been tuned to read and grasp content. So you need to remember this when it comes to positioning content, the various elements of your content on a slide. The next one is to create contrast. Let's say you have 4 or 5 images, or 4 or 5 boxes of text, or 4 or 5 graphical elements. How do you make it clear to your audience that one particular item in that is different from the other, or probably one of them is more significant than the other? You can do it by any of these 5 methods that you see over here. You can do it by differentiating the size. So if you look at the first one on the left, when you look at those 4 dots, your eyes will immediately go to the larger dot because it's larger. Similarly, when you look at the shape, one is shaped different compared to the others. Your eyes immediately go to that star compared to those 3 other circles. They are all of equal size, but your eyes go to the star. Then shade of color. So when you see those 4 circles over there, the lighter blue shade immediately grabs your attention. There's something different about it. And of course, you can change the color itself, which will immediately grab the attention, like how this brown color is doing over here. And of course, proximity. Proximity is basically how you group elements on your screen. Now, if you want to create a sense of differentiation, or if you want to make one of the elements in your screen pop up, you separate it from the rest of the content and that separation itself, you don't have to do anything magical about it. See, the beauty about creating contrast on a slide is it is actually a very simple process. Because one of the things that I find in a lot of slide decks is in their want to create contrast, people usually go in for changing the color or changing the font size. That can be done, but what sometimes happens is they do it in a very alarming manner that it from being a simple or a subtle contrast, it sticks out like a sore thumb. You shouldn't go to that extreme. So you need to maintain that balance, that level of subtlety, so that your slides, while giving that sense of difference to your audience from a visual perspective, it also appears classy. So this is very, very important when it comes to creating contrast for the various elements that you're going to put on your screen. So another thing is alignment. So you may have all of this, right? So you may have all of these colors, contrast, reading from left to right, clockwise, everything right. But still, there is an invisible element when it comes to placing objects on slide, which is symmetry. See, you would have seen instances, I'm sure, over the last year and a half, we've seen a lot of presentations on Zoom. Some slides, they look good. The graphics look nice, the text looks nice, but you feel something is not right. Something in that slide needs to be tweaked. We get that feeling. Even when you are working on a slide, when you put all the elements, you might feel like, okay, this is all looking good, but there is something that I need to tweak. That is nothing but your symmetry. And you can solve that very easily by making your grid lines appear. For example, so this is basically a screenshot from my slide deck. So you can see the symmetry that I have. So I have that grids over there. So you can see that these two are aligned and these are aligned. The separation between this particular area and this particular area is the same. So I have broken it down into 4 quadrants, and all 4 quadrants are in alignment with each other. So when you do this, when you enable your grids and when you start positioning objects with reference to that grid, you will be able to see an immediate transformation in the quality and the class of your slides. See, the techniques that I'm going to be telling you today are not rocket science. There are, of course, a lot of rocket science techniques that are available in PowerPoint, but these are very simple and small elements that you can incorporate in your slides to make it absolutely world class. I mean, these, when you implement these steps, even in your existing slides, you will visually be able to see the differences immediately. So that is the beauty of these techniques that I'm going to show you today. So this is another important thing that you need to remember, is to maintain proper symmetry and alignment of the various elements that you have on your screen. Now let's move on to colors. So we have the symmetry in place. So we have the objects, we have the text. So we need to know what colors we need to use. One of the first things that you need to do when it comes to colors is you need to have what is called a color palette. A color palette is very important when it comes to creating a PowerPoint, a professional PowerPoint presentation, because it gives a sense of continuity and it gives a sense of plan and predictability, right? When you look at the human psychology, we would like to really predict things. And if what we predict happens, we are very happy. We are very comfortable. You need to give that level of comfort to your audience from a visual perspective. See, when you are choosing colors which are set in a palette and they know that your backgrounds are going to be like this, your foregrounds are going to be like this, your font color is going to be like this, your title is going to be of this particular shade, your images typically appear on the right side of the screen. See, if you create these kind of things, see, these are very invisible forces. I'm sure you would have seen a lot of presentations where after the presentation you come out and you are not really able to recollect how those slides were and what those slides were. So we go into this mode of taking screenshots of slides. The reason why we take screenshots of slides and things like that is because we are not really able to retain those slides. We are not able to concentrate on those slides. The reason why we are not able to retain and concentrate on those slides is because there is no proper format to it from a visual perspective. So when that visual equilibrium gets disturbed, you get distracted. See, you are seeing a set of colors in a particular manner. Suddenly, when it changes, your system goes into, it starts shifting gears, and it spends its efforts on trying to interpret, okay, so the titles till now were in black. Now it has changed to blue. Is there any reason to this? Why is this blue? And while all this is happening in your head, the presenter, the trainer is giving out valuable content, and all that is going above your head. So so this is one of the key areas where people can get easily distracted, and colors is very, very important, and keeping it consistent is again very, very important. So let us look at what colors are like and how colors are generally perceived. See, when you look at the spectrum of color, so this is the spectrum of color starting from violet to red. So this is also an indication of how easily a particular color can grab attention. Red grabs the most attention, while violet grabs the least attention. This is how it is tuned in our psychology, in our physiology. We are tuned to perceive colors like this, and this is why you find that red, all danger symbols, your signal lights, anything which brings out that sense of caution, anything you need to stop, anything that grabs attention is in red, right? So why do you find some flowers being very brightly colored? Some flowers are like mildly colored, some flowers are very brightly colored. The brightly colored flowers are evolutionarily set in such a way because the chances of those flowers getting pollinated is very less. So they are evolved to be the brightest so that they get pollinated. So even when it comes to slides, when you are putting in elements of your screen, and we are putting in graphics, when you're putting in icons, when you're putting in text, you need to remember this particular thing as to how much attention do you want your user to get to the various elements that are there on your screen. If you want a certain part of your screen to get more attention, you can go a little towards the right to the spectrum. And if you want something which is more muted, you can go towards the left of the spectrum. So the other thing is your color wheel. So we talked about a color palette earlier. So how do you choose a color palette? There are different ways. And I also get this question, how many colors can we have in a color palette? It's really up to you. It really depends on what you want to do, the theme that you have in your mind, and how it resonates with your content. You can have a straight up monochromatic color, just one color, and you get done with it. Or you have other options. You can use a lot of, so you have, this is called a color wheel. So this is basically the spectrum that you have. And this wheel will really help you choose colors that can be used to form your palette. So there are different options that you can use. You can use a 2-color format, a 3-color format, or a 4-color format. Or if you are really comfortable with, if you are a real expert, you can go in for multiple colors as well, right? So these are some of the most common color palettes that you can use. It's very, very easy to use. If you pick these colors in this particular fashion, your the probability of getting a very good visual impact is extremely high. So the safest option that is available is the 2-color system, which is the complementary colors. So complementary colors is basically choosing colors from the opposite ends of the circle, like how we have it. So we have a red and a green. You can go for a blue and a yellow, things like that. So if you combine these 2 colors, the visual impact will be very, very high because they are at the opposite ends and they deliver a very good contrast. Or if you're looking for something more harmonious, something more muted, something more cohesive, professional, you could go for an analogous scheme where it is a combination of 3 adjacent colors in the color wheel. So when you use 3 adjacent colors in the color wheel, it gives a sense of uniformity. It makes things look more cohesive. It gives a more comfortable, a warm kind of a feeling, so that it looks very professional. And if you look at a lot of these professional slide designs and things like that, you will usually find analogous colors. It's one of the safest bets that you can do to create exciting slide decks. The 3-color system, you can also go in for a triadic or a split complementary colors. These are a bit more adventurous, where you have a wider spectrum of colors over here. So if you move it in this particular manner, in a triadic or a split complementary, if you rotate these triangles and arrive at and use those 3 colors, you can get a very exciting warm versus a very exciting cool look to your presentation. Whether you want to go for the warm side or the cool side, you can do that. The tetradic color, again, it's a little bit adventurous, I would say. So if you are at the initial stage of PowerPoint design and if you're new to colors, I wouldn't recommend going into the tetradic area. You can stick to complementary and the triadic systems. Now, if you have a level of comfort and you know really what you're doing with your colors, you can experiment with the tetradic system as well. It'll give you a much larger palette and something more to play with. Because the thing with so the reason why I'm particularly saying this is because when you have more things to play with, there is more chance to get mischievous with colors. So you need to know where exactly you should stop when it comes to playing with colors. You can play, of course, it's fun, but you need to play within the boundaries so that your slides look really professional and tasteful for your audience. So the another question that I get is about backgrounds. So should I use a light background or should I use a dark background? Which one works? So I'll give you how this process typically works. So when you look at a dark background, right? See, dark backgrounds work very well if you are going to be presenting in a large auditorium, in a large gathering of sorts, because the reason being it offers a lot of contrast. So when you look at the text that I have put in the dark background, it gives a lot of contrast. It looks very formal. It looks very professional looking, even for a large audience. And the level of visibility is very high. You can create contrast. You can create glowing effect. You can make things really pop out in a dark background. I've used black over here for an example, but of course, any dark color gives a similar effect. So when you go to a lighter backgrounds are typically more suited for a more closed gathering, and it's again you can the advantage with light background is you can play with colors quite a bit. Dark background you're kind of restricted to colors. Light background you can play a bit more with colors. So if you're looking to make a presentation that is not like too formal and you want to mix. You want to keep it a little casual and a little conversational, a little bit easy, you can go in for lighter colors. So when I say light backgrounds, I'm not saying exactly white, lighter colors, right? So that will give you a more sense. It makes you feel very comfortable, and light backgrounds also opens up. It gives a sense of openness. It gives a sense of space from a visual perspective, because when people are sitting in very close proximity to whatever you're doing and whatever you're presenting, it is very important to give them that sense of openness so that there is sufficient negative space for your audience to really absorb the material, feel easy on their eyes, and make it much more easier to concentrate on what you are having to offer. And again, when it comes to giving out, some of us trainers also have this practice of printing slides and giving it out as handouts. So if you're going to print your slides and give it as handouts, I would personally recommend going with the lighter backgrounds, not just to save ink. Even from a readability perspective on paper, having a light background is a bit more better. It's a bit better compared to dark backgrounds. So here are some tips that I would like to give in addition to whatever I just explained to you about colors. So one of the key things that you need to remember is when you're mixing colors, don't mix bright red and bright blue. This is one of the most one of the biggest taboos that you can do with design, because it has when you mix bright red and bright blue on the screen, it is the best recipe to give headache for your audience in real time, irrespective of whether your content is interesting or boring, whether you are presenting it in an interesting or a boring manner. When you mix these two colors on screen, you are immediately bound to give your audience a headache, because these two bright colors, when they are mixed together, it is very, very hard for the human mind and the eyes to process. It is very, very painful, and people who have migraines and who attend programs where you mix these two colors, it's going to be very hard for them. The next tip that I would like to give you is this is again a common mistake I see in a lot of presentations, is combining red and green for data charts, right? So one of the things that I would like to advocate whenever I make presentations is for to make sure that your presentations are accessible for differently abled people. So there are a lot of people out there, a large population of people who are suffering from color blindness. So they don't have the ability to really differentiate between red and green so effectively. So if you're going to use red and green combination in data charts, and when you're going to be talking about data, it's going to be very hard for them to process. And you can clearly avoid red and green for your data. There are umpteen number of colors that you can use. So red and green combination is not exactly bad, but when you're presenting data, just make sure that you don't use that particular combination. The next one is the color red itself, right? So I'm sorry, was there a question for me? I mean, if the participants can mute themselves, please.
If Zoom background, because is it close proximity or thing? That is one aspect I want to know.
Sorry, could you please repeat that question?
See, when we are conducting in Zoom in an online platform,
Mm-hmm.
how do you look at the background to be? Should
Okay,
it be
if you are
light
presenting, yes, sir. If you are using a Zoom, if you're using Zoom, I would personally recommend lighter shades because it is much more easier on the eye and it gives a sense of openness because your audience is sitting very, very close to the screen. So I'm sitting hardly about 5 feet away from my screen. So it's very important that they get that sense of openness and that sense of comfort. Dark backgrounds are not really recommended for Zoom kind of a thing. It's not like you can't use it, but it is not really recommended. Light is much better than dark.
Atulji and Somsundaram, can you mute, please?
Thank you. So I will continue further. So I want to spend a minute talking about this particular color red. See, I'm sorry. Can I request the participants to kindly put yourself on mute? If you would like to unmute yourself, you can use the space bar and ask me questions at any point of time. Please stay on mute. Thank you. So I would like to spend the next minute to talk about this particular color red. So like I said at the beginning of this particular chapter on colors, see, red is something that grabs attention very quickly towards it. Now, if you use too much red on your screen, it will do the opposite. See, I'm sure you would have seen this particular, you might be familiar with this particular phenomenon where if you get hurt once in a particular spot, you feel that pain. When you are hurt again in that same spot, the second instance, the pain won't be there so much. Right? So what happens is if you use too much red, our brains completely lose it. They're like, okay, I'm shutting down. I don't want any of this content. So when it comes to the color red, use it very judiciously. If you want to highlight something or if you want to really point out at something which is extremely important, you can use red. But if you're going to use red for your general body text, your titles and things like that, it is an extreme put off for your audience and they will not perceive it. They will not give the level of seriousness that red deserves. So unless and otherwise it is very, very important, avoid using the color red. There are millions of colors that are available. You can use any of that, not red. So now images, my favorite topic. How to select images. Now let's look at this particular slide. So this is actually sort of a replication of a slide that I saw in one of the programs, not in this World's Best Trainer competition, but of course I have seen similar slides in the World's Best Trainer competition as well. See, when you are choosing images and when you are trying to balance it with text, always remember that your image must have some kind of a relationship or some kind of a meaning per se with whatever content that you are putting on screen. See, if you look at the screen, managing your finances. So this gentleman here has a calculator. He has some money in his hand. Okay, that sort of reflects the title, managing your finances. Yes, but what about the content? There are some 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullet points over here. How do these 10 bullet points marry with this particular image? It doesn't. And number 2 mistake that people do is they mix image styles on a particular screen. So here you see that there is a photographic image, and that too of very poor quality, and you have a drawing on the screen. This is an indication of a very poor presentation, because from the human mind it gets confused as to what is your style here, because the images, the text that you're going to be putting on your screen should be a reflection of you and your message. A person who talks about finance and the importance of managing finance is not going to look like that illustration over there. Even the most humorous person is not going to look like that. So why do you have an image like that? It is not reflective of you. It is not reflective of your content. Why are you having an image like that? And why do you have 10 bullet points on a single screen? You are saying 10 things. See, when it comes to slide design and using images, it is always remember this statement. If you say one thing, you say everything. When you say 2 things, you say nothing. Always remember that it is just deliver one single message per slide, and make sure that the image that you have aligns with your slide. And take just one style. If you want to go illustrations, you go illustrations. If you want to go some sort of an artistic combination of both, yes. If you want to use photographs, use photographs, but use only one type. So you can probably take a slide like this and make it into a slide like this. So instead of having 10 bullet points on your screen and spending the next half an hour with you going on about those 10 points, and your audience has to stare that same screen, you can break it down into 10 slides. No, there's no rule against that. See, this particular slide, it talks about tracking your spending. And the image sort of gives an idea of what exactly it is. Of course, you may have your own visual for how you want to visually represent tracking your spending. This is just one of the ways. So you can come up with something like that. But when you look at a screen like this, it looks clean. It knows it is communicating what exactly you're talking about. And there is some sort of a visual which sort of acts like a stick to your memory. So when they recollect it, they look at this weird currency notes tied up with a belt, and they immediately are able to tag that with track your spending. So you can do something like that. And see, even here, the visual relationship that I've got. So what I've done here is, for the on-screen text, I have picked the color from this belt. So these are, see, now I'm spelling it out to you, but these are some of the things that your subconscious tracks without your knowledge. These are things that automatically go into your subconscious. And when you recollect this, you will, without your conscious knowing, you will be able to make this connection and recollect it. So this is the importance of using appropriate images and appropriate amount of text on your screen, so that it really makes sense and drives the key point, the key message that you have home. So the previous slide can be actually broken down into 10 different slides, one for each point, because I'm sure that the speaker, for a slide like this, so these 10 points are very, very important, and I'm sure there is a lot of content available. So save money for emergencies, diversify your income. There are a lot of points to this. Why do you want to put everything on the same slide? You can break it down and show something like this. This is just one example. You can get creative and show the slide in a different way as well. So this is something that you need to remember. Don't stuff your slide with content and images. Give some space for your images and content to breathe. The next thing that I wanted to talk is about bullets. See, another phenomenon that I have observed both outside and also as part of this competition is we don't really know how to use bullet points. See, what we do is we put a bullet point because PowerPoint offers us bullet point, and we put in our nice little paragraph that we want to talk about, which is totally wrong. The analogy that I always use for my trainings is when we talk about bullet points is the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is your bullet point. There should be only so much that should be shown on a bullet. Your stories, metaphors, data, facts, examples, and everything else goes in your delivery, not on your slide. Your slide is only that much. Your verbal content must be much, much more so that you are really able to elaborate. And I'm sure when you look back at some of the great presentations that have happened on this platform by some very good if you feel that there have been some presentations, quite a number of presentations on this platform where you would have really felt that aha impact that, wow, yes, this point is in my head. I can't shake this point off my head. That is because of good bullet point usage on the screen. Of course, along with images, this is something that is very, very critical. The next is showing data. We all love to show data because we are all experts over here. We have done a lot of research on the material that we are presenting, and we are extremely proud of our data, and we love to show off and substantiate the message that we are delivering with hard data. But the important thing you need to remember is that you need to show data on screen, only that data which matters, not all of your research. You might have researched 100 things, but only show data that matters to your audience and that matters to the messaging that you are delivering to them. See, if you look at a slide like this is again a real slide. So you can see that quarterly sales presentations for 4 years. How does this slide look like? This slide has, yes, it has all the data. It has a lot of colors. But when you look at this data, this is really, this looks like someone has taken a lot of pain. They have inputted a lot of numbers on Excel. They have taken at Excel, put it over here and things like that. But does this matter for your audience, or does this matter for your audience? Why is your audience here? To read through all that data or to get this message? This is what your audience wants to know. Data must be presented in a nutshell. And if you are able to present data in a format like this, it shows the amount, not only the amount of research that you have done, but it also demonstrates your level of understanding of that research. You can verbalize all the research that you have done, but everything should revolve around the core message of that data, and that data alone which matters for your audience. So something as simple as this, or something as simple as presenting data in this manner. If you are not a big fan of charts like the previous screen, you can even show something like this. This is very simple yet very effective. You're showing the numbers, and this really hits hard on your face. This sustains the attention of your audience when you're talking about these points and when you're elaborating these points. And another thing, when it comes to presenting facts, again, this is an extension of my previous thing on data, is when you present facts, we do a lot of research as trainers. We go through a lot of books, we go through a lot of research papers, and sometimes you would have been enamored by one particular research paper and you would love to show off that you have not only gone through that research paper, and it could be a very prestigious research paper. You would want to present that you have referenced this particular research paper to really show what you have to say for your audience. So this is a common approach that people take. So this particular research paper over here is by Sergey Brin and Lawrence Page. So this is basically the paper which gave birth to Google. So you can present this slide in this manner, but does this slide really carry anything home for them? See, there is a lot of text. It has the abstract and it has the introduction. Neither is this a complete paper, nor are you going to let your audience read through this paper, nor are you going to read this paper for them. So why do you even have this over here? See, you want to really show that you have done your reference and you're referring to a particular paper. At the same time, you are urging your audience to go and read that paper. That is your ultimate goal. That is your ultimate goal. Really, that's what you're trying to achieve. What you can do is you can achieve it in a different way. Probably putting the slide like this. This image screenshot gives the title of the research paper. It gives the source of the research paper, because this is what really matters. And you give the logo of Google, where you're saying visually that this is the paper that gave rise to Google. So not only does this communicate the message in a very effective manner with a lot of breathing space for your elements, things are well spaced out. It also gives them a point of reference as to what is the title of the paper, and if they are interested in going and reading through that research paper, they are most welcome to do so. They have all the essential information on the screen, and this is all you're going to be talking about. This is all the talking points you need. You're not going to go through all of that abstract and introduction and all of that content. So this is one way of presenting facts to your audience. The next aspect that I want to talk to you about is fonts. So I have seen very classy and very interesting fonts over the past year. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about how to select fonts and where fonts and how these fonts work. There are two types of fonts at a major level. There are serif and sans serif fonts. Serifs are nothing but those small lines that you see. For example, if you look at this, sorry, yeah, just give me a second. Okay, so these lines that you see over here with the S, with the F, with the T, and things like that, these are called these small ticks, those small lines that you see. The R over here has a small indent over here. So these are called serifs. And there are fonts. So right below it, you can see that the letters are much more smoother over here. So these are called sans serif fonts. So typically, when it comes to serif fonts are typically used in reading material where the volume of content is very high, and it is when it is usually printed. So in such situations, you use serif fonts, and serif fonts are good because it's very easy to read in a print medium. So if you look at any book, any printed book that you have, you will always see that serif fonts have been used. Sans serif fonts are good for presentations and places where the amount of text is going to be very, very minimal. See, when you have sans serif fonts are much more easy to the eye. They look a little bit more pleasing. But if you put too much content with sans serif fonts, it becomes very hard to read. So if you have content which is very, very less, it's well spaced out. So in those instances, you can use sans serif fonts. And for printing material, and if you're going to give handouts and notes and things like that, make sure that you select serif fonts for this purpose. And please don't use different fonts like this on your slides. People love Comic Sans. I've seen a lot of people use, they think that's fun, funky, and they use handwritten styles and things like that. Please, with folded hands, I'm asking you, please don't do this. This is not professional. this is not well received irrespective of the volume of content you present using such fonts. And when you use fonts like this, it is not easily absorbed by your audience for the simple reason that when it comes to a formal setting and when it comes to a formal training setup, we are accustomed to looking text in a certain font. When you use fonts like Comic Sans and when you use these handwritten, I don't even know the name of that font, handwritten fonts, it changes the mood of your presentation completely, and it doesn't really deliver the goods as effectively as your traditional fonts. And how many fonts can I use in my presentation? That's another classic question that I get.
Vaidisharan, can I
Yes.
ask a question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
What about Arial or Roti Sans?
Arial or? Could you please repeat that? You said Arial and what was the other one? Hello?
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, you were saying Arial and one other font. What was that again?
Rotis.
Rotis.
ROTISE.
Oh, I haven't heard of that second font. But
Okay.
Arial is definitely a very safe font. You can definitely use Arial. In fact, it's one of the most popular fonts used in presentation. You can definitely use Arial. Arial is a very safe bet when it comes to making such documents. So Arial, definitely go for it.
What about Vardhana then?
Vardhana is fine, but Vardhana is a little old fashioned. So I don't see many people going in for Vardhana. It used to be quite famous in the late 90s to 2000s and all. But now I think we have moved away from Vardhana, and today it's more of Arial. You can use Helvetica. Helvetica is another good font. It's a very professional font that you can use for your presentation. I typically use Arial, Helvetica, and I think there's one other font that I use. I'm sorry?
Times Roman.
Calibri.
Yeah, Calibri is also fine. Calibri is a very safe font again. So I think it's the default font. So people are more used to seeing Calibri than any other font. Yes, Calibri is also a safe option. The reason why I prefer Arial over Calibri is because the typeface of Arial is a bit more stronger compared to Calibri. Calibri is a bit light. So for my presentation in my particular use case, I prefer slightly stronger fonts compared to lighter fonts. There's nothing wrong in using lighter fonts if it works for your scenario. But yeah, Calibri is definitely a good option that you can use.
About Times Roman.
Again, Times New Roman, if you look at it, it is a serif font. So, and of course, it is a little bit old-fashioned once again. So, if you, but when it comes to printed documents, Times New Roman is sort of a safe option because again, there is that sense of visual similarity that is there associated with Times New Roman. You can definitely use that. But for a slide deck, I wouldn't recommend Times New Roman.
How about Angsana New? Angsana is also.
Ansana, okay, so I don't have a recollection of every single font that is available on MS Office.
Okay, yeah, but this is basically a used one on PPTs for PPTs, which I've come across.
Okay.
So I was just wanting to ask if that can
No,
be.
you can, if it is possible for you, you can share the font name on probably my private window. I can check that font online and I can let you know if that would be a good option.
Sure.
Mr. Vaiti, I have a question. Durga Prasad here.
Yes.
See,
Yes,
if I
yes,
understand
Durga
it goes right. You
Mhm.
recommend sans serif type of fonts rather than serif fonts. That's about it, right? Instead of whether this font is right or this font is right. So,
See,
I mean, after my
generally, okay, Mr. Durga Prasad, see, what happens with fonts is really what kind of a style that you want to present. See, serif and sans serif fonts, see, the topic of fonts is a very deep topic that itself is an ocean to study, fonts and typography. The objective of this particular presentation here is to give you a general guidance of how you can use fonts quickly and in an effective manner to make your presentations look good. The general rule is if you are using sans serif fonts, you can use it for on-screen elements where the possibility of having too much text is less. You only have very limited amount of text. You want to make it look visually clean, you can use sans serif. Now, if you're going to present or if you're going to have a lot of content, probably like a handout or something like that, I would definitely recommend a serif font, because when it comes to printed materials, it's much more easier to read serif fonts rather than sans serif fonts. So this is a general guideline. See, if you have to go deep into the into fonts and how typography and what is the how font type is created, I think that would be a separate topic, and probably people are interested, because the reason why I didn't go into it, because that's a little bit of a scientific topic. If people are interested, we could probably have a separate conversation on that, because there is a science when it comes to designing all these letters and symbols and all. We can probably have it for another day.
So generally recommended is Calibra as a universal. Universally recommended is
Calibra is a safe font, if you would ask me. It's a safe font to use.
because
When
I
it comes
just
to
checked in my
presentations, that
Word-
is.
I just checked in my Word. I could not find serif fonts and all that. So universally
Okay.
recommended.
Okay, so no, serif you will be able to distinguish based on these lines that you see over here. For example, if see, it won't be spelt as serif and sans serif. Some fonts will have that name, but it won't be spelt out as serif and sans serif. It is just to give you an indicator. So if you see these lines over here, these hangings that you have over here, for the F and all those things, those are called, those fonts with these hangings, extra hangings, are called serif. For example, if you look at the second example over here, the F looks very, very clean, straight lines. That is called a sans serif font. So when you select a font and when you start typing, you'll be able to identify whether it is a serif or a sans serif font.
Shweta, I think you can go ahead. I think
Okay.
of ones you've seen.
Okay, now I'm very happy to see that there is a lot of interest in fonts. That's a favorite area of mine. So coming to fonts, how many fonts can I use in a presentation? That's another question I get asked often. I would personally recommend not using more than one font. Stick to one font from start to finish. That is the most ideal thing you can do. Don't go for more than one font, because again, from a visual perspective, that gives a sense of consistency. If you absolutely must use multiple fonts, you can probably add another one, but not more than two. The reason why I'm saying why I'm a little apprehensive when it comes to adding additional fonts is because, like colors, fonts must also complement each other. And to match fonts and to make sure that fonts are complementary, you need to study a bit more on font design, character design, and how those things work. So unless you are really sure of how that science works, I wouldn't recommend going with two fonts. It's safe to stay with one font. Still, you say, no, Vaidi, I want to use two fonts in my slides, but I don't want to learn this font technique, these font styles and the development, design and all those things. Is there a way? There is a way. For some fonts, we have what are called as font families. So when you look at a font family, so you will see typically, so for some fonts, if you look at Word, you will have this small arrow over here. For that is especially there for Arial. The reason why I've shown Arial is because it's a very common font. So when you see this arrow, you have different versions of the same typeface. So this is called a font family. So if you want to play with multiple fonts and multiple font types, you can select fonts from a single family. See, if you look at this screenshot over here, the look and feel of these fonts are different, yet they have the same visual language. So if you want to create contrast using fonts and if you want to give that feel of using multiple fonts, my suggestion will be to go and select a font family and play around with that a bit, so that you are really able to bring out that sense of visual difference that you would like to have. You get that sense of using different fonts, but still you stay within the font family and you still manage to give the level of visual consistency for your audience. Right? So moving on, animations and transitions. So when it comes to animations and transitions, it's always the KISS formula. So can someone unmute and tell me what KISS means?
Keep it short and simple.
Exactly. Keep it short and simple. Don't complicate. For example, if you look at the slide that I'm showing right here, the transitions that I've been doing, for all these slides, I have been using only one transition where the slides get pulled up. I have not used any other transition. And all my animations are very, very simple. They either appear directly on screen or they just fade in. There are no other effects. We don't have any of this revolving, this jumping. None of that will be there. These effects are basically designed for kids, school kids who are experimenting with PowerPoint and they want to create some fun projects. It is exclusively for them, not for anyone else, and especially not for professionals. Please don't use this effect. It is extremely distracting and it completely dilutes the level of professionalism and the quality of message that you are trying to deliver to your audience. Please don't use any of these spinny, jumpy, zoomy effects. Keep it very, very simple. Keep it extremely subtle. That makes you look very, very professional. So I would like to give you some tips for how to create better slide design. So now I have covered a multitude of aspects over here, starting from your backgrounds to your layouts to fonts to images to colors. So we've looked at a lot of these aspects. So the tips that I'm going to give you here are some generic tips on how exactly you need to go about with your PowerPoint design and how to create slides that create impact for your audience. The first thing is really to start on paper. The first step to creating a PowerPoint slide is closing PowerPoint. One of the most common mistakes people do is they have a topic, they have some mental idea of what they want to do, they immediately open PowerPoint and start making slides. See, PowerPoint is a beautiful tool for making visual presentation. It is not exactly designed for collating and curating content. It is not designed for that. Because when you start creating slides before you have things on paper, what the risk that you will run into is you will put together the first two slides. Then you will think, okay, so is this slide looking good? Then you will start going into Google, look for images. You see what's happening here. You get carried away by other things, and by the end of the day, you would have spent like 5-6 hours on PowerPoint and you wouldn't have crossed more than 4 or 5 slides. And while your brain really wants you to write content, to flesh out the structure, flesh out what are the things that needs to go into each of the slides, you are forcing it to work on something for which you are actually not even ready. Even before you have all your ideas collated, your structure drawn, you have, and what needs to go into each of these slides. You should not open PowerPoint. So how do you go about this? So how do you start without opening PowerPoint? See, the first thing that you need to do is first write down your topic on a piece of paper, do your research, and write down all of the material that you have collected, whether you want to write, whether you want to print, if you have some documents online, you want to print it, put it all together. Then the next step really will be to go through all of that material and use post-it notes or some small pieces of paper cut to the shape of post-it notes and write down the one single idea that particular material that you have collected is delivering. Just one single idea it shouldn't be longer than a post-it note. Now you paste or now you attach all these post-it notes to all of the ideas that you have collected. Then you take out all these post-it notes once it's all done and you put it on a board and then look at it. You will get an idea of what you want to cover and what you don't want to cover. This was actually one question that was asked in yesterday's conversation with Mr. Arun. I have content. I have amassed content by reading so much. I don't know how to manage. This is how you manage. You write on all of the content and you put it on a board as post-it notes, not your full content. When you do that, and when you look at the points in its individuality, you will be able to easily single out what are the things you want to talk about and what are the things that you don't want to talk about. So once you have done that and identified what are the things that you want to talk about, what you need to do is then flush it out. Write 2 or 3 descriptive points for each of those post-it notes. So those 2 or 3 descriptive points that you're going to write is what is actually going to be the fundamental or the foundation for your slides. Now that you have that, you take all these points, take another set of post-it notes and write down the messages that you want to deliver in that under that particular point, and whatever you are able to write within that post-it notes should go into your slides, nothing more. If you want to support it with images, excellent. If you are not able to do that, whatever you are able to put inside one single post-it note is what it should be appearing on one single slide. Only after you do all of this should you even think about opening your PowerPoint. Because when we talked about these layouts, when we talked about colors, when we talked about palettes, you need to know the theme, the tone, the mood that you're going to create with your slides and your presentation. And it is really important that the colors that you choose, the backgrounds that you choose, the fonts that you choose, the images that you choose reflect that mood. Until you have a clarity on what exactly that mood, that tone, that tenor is going to be for your presentation, your slides are not going to reflect that. And this is a classic problem that I see across the board. Only when you are able to arrive at all of this and when you know what exactly you're doing, you will find out that you'll be able to produce slides so easily. The slides just come to you very naturally. So this is how you need to start your presentations. Please start on paper, not on PowerPoint. And the next one is, of course, you need to know your audience. You need to know who you are talking to, whether it is a homogeneous crowd or heterogeneous crowd, what could be their possible age group, whether you are addressing school children, whether you're talking to college students, to professionals, to young professionals, senior management. You need to know that if you have to design your slides appropriately, because a same concept can be talked to with different people. It's not just about how you present the content in your words. It also depends on how you present your content on screen, which is very, very important, because they should reflect the same level of mood and the same level of professionalism that you would like to maintain in your delivery when it comes to presenting your content. And of course, like I said before, please have just one idea per slide. Don't go beyond that, because if you put in more ideas in a slide, let me tell you what will happen. See, when you put multiple ideas on a screen, when you put various elements on a slide, be it an image, be it the title, the content. See, what essentially you are creating here you are trying to create a competition. A slide must be designed to create co-opetition, not competition. Now, if you're going to put multiple elements that are different from each other, they are going to fight amongst each other for grabbing the end user's attention. Now, if that fight is going to happen, that fight is going to confuse your audience. They don't know what to look at. Now, you may have 5 points on your screen and you may be talking about the first point, but your audience will be busy reading the second, third, and fourth point, and they'll be missing your first point. And by the time they come to the second point, they think they know what you're going to talk about it. And they switch off. I'm sure you would have all experienced this. So have just one idea per slide. Talk to it. So this is another question that I again get when I show this particular slide. Vaidhi, how many slides can I have in, let's say, a half an hour presentation, or 1 hour presentation, or 1.5, 2 hour, whatever it is? How many slides can I have? Is there a cardinal rule?
Sir, there is one 10, 20, 30 rule which I learned long back. Can I
Yes,
share
sir.
here with you? For a
Absolutely. I'm going to talk about that. All that does not exist.
okay, all whole theory, right?
Yes, it does not exist. It has no meaning. Because, for example, I have been talking to you till now. I think I've been talking to you for about 45 minutes. Right? I think a little over 45 minutes. Yeah, close to one. I've been talking to you for an hour. And I am right now in slide number, I think 48 or 49. I'm sure none of you fell asleep. And I'm on slide number 49. In 60 minutes, I have reached 49 slides. That rule didn't apply over here. See, when it comes to slides and slide design, the only rule that matters is your audience should get what you're trying to tell them. All these rules of number of slides that I need to have for a 30-minute presentation, this is the number of slides that I need to have. All that does not exist. Have you all heard of this concept called Pecha Kucha? This was quite popular a few years back. Have you all heard of this?
Japanese techniques of 20
Yes.
by 20.
20 by 20. Could you please tell us what that is?
Where you juxtapose all the slides just in pictures.
Okay.
Into one slide. And I think it's 20 by 20 if I'm not mistaken. It should be presented in 6 minutes or 10 minutes. That's it.
It should be presented in 6 minutes, 20 slides,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
no text is allowed, only
No
images.
text. And voiceover. It can be a voiceover if you want.
It can be a voiceover, but you can have voiceover, but it's 6 minutes time, 20 slides.
Absolutely. I've done
And
that.
yeah,
I've
so
presented it.
how did you find that experience?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, but the thing is that you need to have a mastery over it because you tend to speak much, too much. So you really have to time it out in a way that the Pechacha presentation is apt with the kind of parameters of 20 by 20 and 6 minutes without any text.
So I'm sure you realize how important slides are when it comes to delivering a
Oh
training
yes,
presentation.
absolutely.
Because see, we tend to put a lot of effort into our script. We tend to put a lot of effort into our delivery, and oftentimes our slides get a very stepmotherly treatment. And especially in today's world, where we are in Zoom and Google Hangout and things like that, it shows. It shows very well. So it is that much important to remember that
Sir,
your slide.
one point. Sir, 1 point, sir. You
Yes, sir.
said one idea per slide. They even say it's your slide should be like a billboard advertisement. Just only one line. Billboard.
Yes, that is actually excellent point, sir. I'm actually coming to that next. That is the next point I was about to talk about. Thanks a lot. So
Sir, can
the
you
next
can you
question,
repeat that Bacha Kucha? What is that? The name?
see, it's called Pechakucha. It's a Japanese technique where
Can you
they
spell
use
it? Can you spell it?
Pechakucha.
Okay.
So it's a Japanese technique, sir, where they use only images. They have to present their thought, their story, their idea in 20 minutes, in 6 minutes with 20 slides. And without any break, it should just flow. And at the hit of the 6th minute, they should say thank you. There are no extensions given, not 1 second this way, that way. They end at that 6th minute with those 20 slides, and it just flows seamlessly and it exactly ends there. That's the amount of effort that goes in. And imagine they will talk about a multitude of subjects. It's not just they just come and talk about their areas, but they use only images, no on-screen text. Imagine the amount of impact that you need to create with just images on your screen. And that's one of the techniques. Again, there are a lot of slide techniques like Pecha Kucha, and again, that's a whole different topic, a whole different world. But I just wanted to highlight about this idea of having just one idea per slide. And I heard this comment about having it as look like a billboard. Yes. So that brings us to the next point. How many words per slide? You said one idea per slide. Fantastic. How many words can I put in a slide? Again,
6 words per line.
Pardon?
6 words.
6?
7 per line.
7 or 9? I think that's a little too stringent. Well, if you can pull it off, fantastic. I would recommend anywhere between 15 to 20 words. If you are desperate, 22 words, not more than that. Keep 20 as the absolute ceiling. The reason being, if you put more than that, like I heard just now, it should look like a billboard. It should, see, your presentation slides should act as a scaffold for you, not as your script. Your script is different, your slides are different. Your slides are scaffolds. They are going to help. They are not, and your slides are not for you to look at, okay, so these are the points that I need to talk about. So let me elaborate on that. Your slides are not for you. It's all for your audience. It is for your learners.
It is something like a personal branding or something?
It's not a personal branding.
Okay.
It's not personal branding. In fact, I have a very important point to share about personal branding on slides. I'm coming to that. That is a very important point that I want to share. I'll come to that point. So this is the concept of having one idea per slides and having number of words in a slide. So this is where we talk about keywords. See, like I said, should be a scaffold, not a script. So you need to remember this point. So the best way to achieve that low word count that I just said is to use only keywords, because by putting in these keywords, you are creating hooks. Those keywords are going to function like hooks for your audience, and they are going to use those words to associate with the message that you are sharing as part of your presentation. And so word count, again, I covered not more than 20 to 30. Again, this is for another audience. So I would say 20, please don't go over 20. 30 is actually, personally, I will not accept 30. If you want, you absolutely have to go to 30 words. For example, let's say that you are presenting some sort of a graph or some sort of an evidence, or if you're putting up a screenshot of a research paper title and things like that, there you don't have control of the word count. So it may go up to 30, but please don't go beyond that.
VV sir, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
It has been a wonderful session.
Okay.
I missed the connect to understand for a file. You said that yes, number of words per slide, number of slides, but is there any number of restrictions? You said about Pecha Kucha. What is the maximum slides that we should present, say for the presentation of 1 hour?
It is entirely in your hands.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. I don't know if people attended Mr. Mohan's session. He conducted a 2-hour workshop. He had 3 slides.
Okay, I'm coming for the first time in your session.
Okay.
And I am like, you had you had floored me. Like, I am totally, it's wonderful. Like,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
See, there are no rules over here. The only rule is for your learners to get your message and your call for action. Nothing else matters. You can take any number of slides you want to make that happen. If you are able to make that happen,
there should be a delta time for the pause. Like I understand.
Yes,
you show the slides, and what happens is that it should get assimilated with the viewers also, your audience also.
Exactly. So that is the reason why I'm saying one idea per slide. You finish one idea with a slide, immediately skip to the next one. That will help you not only for the learners to perceive the content, it will also maintain that visual interest, that they're not stuck with one slide and staring at it for 3 hours.
And there's a saying that, one picture tells 1,000 words.
Exactly. You can use a single picture. For example, at the beginning of this slide, I showed you a picture of a goldfish. I spent about 5 minutes with that.
I just joined around 5 minutes later. I would request
Okay.
again, dwell on Goldfish at the end of this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
I'll probably do.
the flow is so nice, sir. I just got flavor. It's too good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I'll just continue with the last few tips I have.
Yeah.
So this is about clip art and word art. So I still find people using clip art and word art. Yes, they are exciting text formats that you can use. They are beautiful colors. You don't have to put any efforts. But please, clip art and the style of using clip arts went out of vogue in the year 2000. It's been 21 years now since clip art and word art has been formally buried by the corporate world. Please do not resuscitate it. Please do not dig it out. Let it rest in peace. We have a plethora of fonts. We have a plethora of design strategies that we just looked at. Use all of that. That is more than enough to make your slides look completely professional. Yes, this is the point I wanted to talk about. Branding. Please don't put your logo, your name, your designation and everything on every single slide. Please don't do that. See, what you're doing by doing that is, if you put your name, your logo and all of that, your name and logo are competing for your audience's attention with the content. Your logo and your name, your brand, your company name, you putting it on every single slide. Those elements are going and competing with the content that you have put on each of the slides from the learner's perspective. So it just serves as a distraction for your learners. And I also see a lot of slide presentations where on the last slide they put their name, the first slide they put their name, they put their contact number, they put their email, they put their website and all that. See, please understand this. If you have quality and substance in you, and if you have created a true sense of transformation in your audience, they will come looking for you. You don't have to advertise yourself. See, at the beginning of any presentation, you are thoroughly introduced. Like Mr. Mohan gave a thorough introduction about me. All of you knew my name. I didn't say my name is Vaidishwaran Vedagiri. You all knew it. And if people are interested in connecting with you, see, even if you put your name, your contact number, your logo, your website and all of that, if people are not interested in your content, they are not going to come and look at you. See, we are living in the age of information, the age of digital, where all of us have enormous and phenomenal digital persons. All you need to do is go to Google and type Vaidishwaran Vedagiri. My entire horoscope will appear over there. All my podcast channel, my website, everything will appear. I don't have to talk about it. See, what is the point in showing something to someone who's not even interested in that? There's no point. Even if you show it, they're not going to come to you. But if you are genuinely creating a sense of transformation in a person, and if they want to associate with you, if they want to learn from you, if they want to cooperate with you, they will come in search for you. Let me tell you this. This is a consistent thing. After every single presentation that I make, I get a bare minimum of at least 5 to 6 LinkedIn requests from people who have been there in my audience. I didn't go and advertise myself. There's no, I mean, if you look at towards the end, there will not be any slide which says thank you, which will say, please contact me over here. None of that will be there. My logo is not there anywhere. My name is not there anywhere in this slide deck. But if people are interested, are genuinely interested in you, they will find you. Your presentation is what that matters. Your logo, your company name, your name, none of that really matters. If you have substance, they will come in search for you. Please remember that.
So one personal question.
Yes, sir.
I see Swami Vivekananda's photograph at the backyard.
Okay, yes.
Is it every day you put, or today is just being his death anniversary? This is the reason. Or
No. If you no. This poster is my favorite. It always hangs. I mean, even if you go and look at my older videos, you will find that poster over there.
Okay. This is a particular day which is connected to Swami Vivekananda.
Yes, I know.
Why he had,
Sir, I am a graduate of Vivekananda College. I am from the Ramakrishna Mission.
Okay.
So I have very deep reverence for the Holy Trinity and Swamiji.
Okay.
So that's why I have his picture over there.
Wonderful.
And I have I have the photo of Holy Mother in my wallet always. My mother's photo and Holy Mother's photo will always be there in my wallet. So that's the connection.
Ram Krishna Sharanam.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. And another thing, the last thing that I want to talk to you about is sometimes, even with all these points, you may feel that, there's something lacking in my slides. Somehow it doesn't look professional. So for that, you can look for inspirations. There are a lot of books, online magazines, a lot of things are available online. You can go into some magazine that is, you feel that connects with you, your personality and things like that. There are a lot of magazines that you would have subscribed to. Look out for some of the layouts that they've used. Look how they've treated images, how they've treated text. See if you can take some inspiration from them and see if you can translate a portion of it into your slide deck. So that will make a big difference in how your slides and your slide deck get evolved. So I'm going to spend a few minutes to show you some of the slides. I don't want to start a discussion because I think we have only 30 minutes left. Now I'm going to show you some real slides. Okay. I'm going to show you some real slides. I'll show each slide for about a minute.
Finish also personal branding. It will be great. Allow me that time.
Sir, I'll just show you. No, I will take some questions towards the end because I'm sure people will have a lot of questions. So I'm going to show you some slides. I want you all to internalize. I'll show each slide for a minute. I just want you to internalize each slide and arrive at for yourself as to what is wrong with those slides. And remember, these are slides from actual real presentations that have been given. They are not slides that have been generated for this purpose. They are real slides. Now that you have heard me talk for about a little over an hour, I want you to look at these slides and just internalize what you've learned.
Too much of
Overloaded message.
Too much information.
Picture and lot of
No visibility. No visibility.
Can't read anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like messy, total messy.
Okay.
Too many colors.
One gets
Too
turned
many
off.
colors, too many words.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Let's quickly go to the next slide. What do you think about this?
Too many
The
words, too
wrong
many colors.
infographics. Very bad
color is
infographics.
not pleasant and
Too many words per slide.
And it is a
Cluster
cut
words.
copy paste. It's a cut copy paste.
Cluster of words. Cluster of words.
Everything is
it's-
Looks like
confusing.
a screenshot.
It's a screenshot, cut copy paste from
Can't make out
Google.
anything. Yeah.
Great. What about this one?
Clumsy.
The infographics is bad.
too much of messages.
Not related to
Too
the copper
much
with this thing.
text.
Yeah,
Too
you can
much
relate with the
text.
picture and the text.
And the visual is not matching with the content.
Too much data on one page.
Two ideas.
Okay.
Right.
I was hoping someone would notice those logos and
Yeah,
branding.
I was. Yes.
Number linkage is not appearance in the text matter.
Yeah. Okay. What about this one?
Whoa.
Mind you, these are all real slides. These are not generated.
Nobody will read it.
Like you said about the Google, sir.
Too many pages.
Wikipedia one
One
slide.
line clearly
Copy-paste.
marked out. Yeah, just like that
May I
Google
request
you
on
had given
Just
this thing.
to please
They could have given the highlights.
Yeah. What about this one?
Amazing.
A good creativity.
Only doctors can.
No, but is this for
But
real?
they cannot.
People use this kind of.
There has been no inference out of data available.
No message is getting conveyed.
All mission tank.
Only the
Sorry.
person who developed can able to understand this.
It is a juggling.
What about this one?
Too much logo. Too much.
Many words,
over
too many
messages.
points.
I think
Company's name.
whatever you wanted to speak is printed there.
Okay, I've got more. What about this one? This is my favorite.
Too much of colors.
Glaring colors, no color matching.
Eye strain.
Bad contrast.
Not
Headache
builder.
Headache builder, as you said.
They are killing.
See, now you see what impact
very
color
bright.
has.
Yeah. Yes.
See, everything possible. I mean, with colors, whatever possible ways you can go wrong, everything is here on this slide. What about this one? Last one. This is the last one.
Font,
Poor color combination.
font is not okay.
Font is bad. Put a running font. It's not
Even the color
difficult to
is
read.
straight
Color
to the eye.
background color is not an apparent.
Okay, no, the font is not clear.
And the
Avoid the serif fonts.
Background is too bright.
The colors are not matching.
Great.
color is good.
I've been making
Contrast
such a
is
blunder
good.
all the time.
Very, very dull background.
Fantastic. So I would say thanks a lot for summarizing my 1 hour 15-minute presentation for me so well. I don't know if I could have done it better. So thanks a lot for being a very patient audience, and I'm open to any questions that you might have.
What about font size, sir? Font size.
You did not.
Can I have questions one at a time, please?
Font size, sir. Font size.
First question, sir.
Font size you did not elaborate.
Please ask everyone to mute, please.
Can everyone please mute and ask questions?
I will mute everyone, so you can unmute. I request all the participants to use the raise hand icon. One by one, we will call and you can ask the questions.
Sir,
Right.
2 words on personal branding.
Vaidishthan, you can unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Yeah, I'm unmuted. Yes, sir. First question, please.
Font size, sir. Size of the font.
Size of the font. Okay, great question there. So, size of the font, I would probably peg, since we are looking at only 20, or 15 words to 20 words, just make sure that you have spaced out the elements very well. And I would say a minimum font size should be 24. Nothing less than 24 will do in a slide presentation. And if you are going for a larger audience, suppose let's say by God's grace we get out of the pandemic and we go back into classroom training, please don't use anything less than 32 in a classroom setup.
Yeah, 32 is the standardized one.
Yes.
For caption 36 I'm told. Is it okay?
Yes, that is totally fine.
Thank you.
Sir, can I? This is
Yes,
Usha, sir.
Santana, madam, please. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Sir, awesome, sir. Your session is very excellent. Lot of input given. Really excellent. Sir, can you just brief about the recent Prezi, sir? I came to know Prezi, but I didn't know about that. Can you just brief about how far it is useful in PPT? And what is the latest PPT version that we can use in Zoom session or whatever it may be?
Okay. See, Prezi is basically an independent application. It is similar to PowerPoint. So it is not related to PowerPoint. It is a separate application in itself. It is also a presentation tool. So you can go in for that particular tool as well. Again, Prezi has its own set of unique features. You can bring in some additional kind of transitions and make it a little bit more visually exciting. If you are looking for some interesting transitions, it has something a bit more. But again, when it comes to using Prezi, there is a bit of a learning curve. So if you are completely tech savvy and you are really at it to learn Prezi, you can really learn it. But there is definitely a bit of a learning curve to that. Again, when it comes to using Prezi today, if you're going to use it in multiple devices in multiple places, it might be a bit of a problem because Prezi is not exactly as popular as PowerPoint. So you can, of course, definitely take a Prezi presentation and present it in a machine where you don't have Prezi installed. That is definitely possible. But the thing is, if you want to make any edits or any changes of that sort, you will need a machine which has Prezi installed. So from a portability perspective, Prezi is a bit restricted, but otherwise it's a very good tool. It's a very interesting tool that you can use for creating presentations. So your second question pertaining to Microsoft Office, my recommendation here will be to subscribe, make a subscription to Office 365, because the reason is, apart from being a cost-effective option, if you use Office 365, you will get all of the updates, the software updates automatically done to your software. To give you an example of what a software update might be, so software update as it sounds very boring. So I will tell you what those software updates look like. So a few months back, Microsoft released an update for Office 365 PowerPoint where they have added a library of free stock images. So all you need to do is go to the drop down. You have an option called stock images. So when you select that, you just type a keyword. It will give you photographs related to that. You double click it, it downloads to your machine and you can use it. All those images are royalty free. So you're also allowed to use it commercially. And they have a growing library of stock images. So if you are creating a program which is going to go into an international audience and where it's going to get a lot of visibility, making sure that your images and assets are copyrighted. I mean, it doesn't have any copyright violations is very important. So you can do something like that. And about a year, I think 9 months back, they released another patch where they have given icons, again free icons. You just type in the theme that you want. It gives you a lot of icons. So those icons you can reshape, resize, you can change the colors and things like that. That makes your slides look more professional. So when I say updates, these are some of the updates that you can get. And of course, there are security updates, stability updates, and those kind of things that come along as well. So my recommendation will be to go with Office 365.
Thank you so much.
Sir, one question.
Thank you so much. Once again,
Maybe, sir.
We'll just go by the order if you don't mind, because there are people.
I have been showing my hands for quite a while.
One second,
Nobody
second.
is dictating. Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much. Only the thing that, sir, where can I get that animation, free animation images, sir?
Free animations is not, I don't know if there is a source for getting free animations. Free images, there is a site, a website called Unsplash. Let me just put it on the chat window for everyone's benefit. It's called Unsplash. So Unsplash is a site where all the images are royalty free. It's a subsidiary of Getty, and you can download images and use it for commercial purposes. The site is called Unsplash.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, most welcome.
Mr. Rameshwar Giri, you can please ask your questions.
Yes, please. Yes, Mr. Rameshwar.
Please unmute yourself and ask the question. I guess he's not here. Mr. Anil Goswami?
No, I'm here, sir. I'm here. I was unmuting. Just...
I am there, sir.
Anilji, 1 minute. Mr. Rameshwar, let him finish.
I took time for unmuting. First of all, thank you, sir. I have realized what blunder I have made in 30 years in my PPTs. One question I wanted to ask,
yes,
it is something not in this syllabus, but I wanted to know that. On YouTube, in presentations, the speaker talks and the PPTs are next to him, but it is not PPT, direct words are coming next to him. So where I can get access, how I should do?
That is basically a video editing technique. It's called chroma keying. That's again a different topic in itself. I mean, again, these are all, I can teach you chroma keying, but again, that's another world in itself when it comes to video editing. So we can probably discuss it separately, but the technique is called chroma keying. It's a video editing technique.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Sure. Yes, Anilji.
Shall I?
Yes, sir.
Nagalingam. Sir, thank you. So I want to know a little more about background. So because I came little late, I joined little late, I missed that portion. Briefly about the background you told.
Okay, backgrounds, I was talking about using light and dark colored backgrounds, and how when you want to use a light background, it's usually used best for smaller gatherings and for online presentations. Lighter backgrounds are better. And again, for if you're going to give printed handouts, lighter backgrounds are better. If you are going for a larger audience and if it's a more formal setting and things like that, your darker backgrounds are better because, darker backgrounds are better. And again, when it comes to handouts, dark backgrounds are not exactly a good option. This is a nutshell version of what I just said. This is my presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chidambaram, please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chidambaram.
Yes, sir. Mr. BV, I think if I remember right, this is the 4th presentation you're doing in this platform. And this 4th presentation, you have hit 6s all. I just have two things. Yeah. One was, I think in the earlier presentation, I remember you said you must have the picture or whatever image on the right hand side. So just throw light on that. I don't today you mentioned or I don't know. It's better if it appears on the top right. And second one was when we all made PowerPoints, we used to, even now many trainers are using the technique. We use animation and we don't show all the 4 points together. I first put a point, I discuss that. So the person who's attending will not know the second point. Though it's an old one, this is just for another, just to tell how we learned those days. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, sir. See, there is nothing wrong in doing that. What I am suggesting over here is, see, if you have that first point, there's nothing wrong in doing that. The method that I told you is slightly better in the sense, if you have your first point and then you display the second, then you display the third, what will happen if you do it as a bullet? If you do it as an infographic, that's a different story. But if you put it as a bullet point one after the other, see, bullet points are not exactly, they don't help you get a visual connect, right? Compared to an infographic, if you make an infographic, for example, if you refer to presentation by Mr. Arun, I think that's a good example. He uses these lot of infographics. So you have a number of points. He also displays, if you really scientifically sit and look at it, he displays 5 points on the screen. But those are not 5 bullet points. He actually, at a fundamental level, even though they might look like points, there is a difference when you present it as an infographic versus presenting it as a bulleted list. If you want to present it as an infographic, fine. If you don't want to present it as an infographic, what you can do is you can break it down into multiple slides. That's another way of doing it.
So I do agree. The billboard I suggested. Now that what about the you showed last time on the right hand side, sir? The image. I think I remember you told me. But
yes, so that is definitely true. That is a more traditional approach. Again, it's just a sense of how people get used to things. We are used to seeing images on the right and text on the left. But again, this is very, very contextual. If you feel that your content, the image deserves more prominence than the text. For example, let's just say that your image is the key and you just have a supplementary point appearing as text. You may position your image to the left and text to the right. It is just a matter of giving prominence to what you want basically to happen. See, generally the way we make presentations is we give value to the on-screen text and we use images as a support, which is totally fine. You can definitely do that. But if, for instance, if you get in a situation where your image requires more prominence than your text, you can alter the positions accordingly. That's it.
Next, Mr. Roopnarayan.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I am Roopnarayan Chaudhary. Sir,
Yes, sir.
my question is that during the course of your presentation, you had said that one who is impressed will come back to you.
Yes.
In connection with that, may I know your coordinates? How can I know your coordinates? How can I be in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can find me on most of the social media. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube.
Okay.
I have a podcast on YouTube. You can get in touch with me over there. Of course, LinkedIn is definitely there. I mean, you just have to Google my name. All of this information, like I said, my entire horoscope will appear on the first page.
And sir, you will respond to an invite, right?
Absolutely. I am very active on social media.
Yeah.
And I am an active podcaster as well. So I give a lot of these kind of presentations. I make a lot of episodes for my channel. You will find me very, very active on social media.
Okay. One more thing, sir.
Yes.
I just missed the first 2 to 3 minutes on the goldfish. If the time permits, like even a 1 minute sentence will be, taken with huge obligation.
Sure. Absolutely. See, when I put that entire image of that goldfish on the screen, I was talking about how we complain that the learner attention has come down to something that is less than that of a goldfish. And what I was trying to tell that it is not the learner's fault. It is just how we have evolved. And the reason why our attention spans are very short is because of the availability of excellent content, which can deliver the key message within that particular time. So it is what I was in a nutshell I was trying to tell is that learners have evolved, trainers need to evolve to that.
Is that goldfish has got a very less span of attention? Or like
Yes. So it has been determined that goldfish has a very small span of attention of less than 6 minutes. So it has been a study was conducted and it was shown that our attention spans are slightly lesser than that of a goldfish.
Okay, human beings have a slightly lesser than that of a goldfish.
Yes, because of how one is the amount of distractions that we have, and number two, of course, the impact of real quality content that is being produced. That is all the amount of time we are ready. See, if you look at an example, let's say you want to do something. Let's say you have a software, or you want to probably repair a particular device at home. Let's say your mouse is not functioning. You want to investigate how to make it function, or something as simple as you have received a box of this mouse. The packing is complicated. You don't know how to open it. Let's take a very simple example. The first place you will go is YouTube. When you hit that keyword, you will see a list of videos popping up. Literally for any single topic you put something, you see a list of videos popping up. What makes you select the video of your choice? So you find a video that is 1 minute long. You find a video that is 6 minutes long. You find a video that is 30 minutes long. You want to open the case of this mouse. Which video will you select?
Minimum.
Yes. And why is that?
Attention. My time.
Attention. See, it's not a question of attention. It's your time. Yes, that's correct. See, it is your time that matters. You want to get the job done. And you want the person who will help you get the job done as quickly as possible. See, if I were to teach you how to unbox the box for this mouse, and if I spend the first 5 minutes talking about the history of this mouse, the various models, how it were evolved, will you continue watching that video?
No.
You're not interested in that. See, for people who are interested in that, perhaps. But you are here for one objective, and that objective is to open this box and take this mouse out and start using it. You will go only to that video which is shortest, because you know in your mind, opening a packing is going to take like what, a minute and a half. Why should I sit and watch a 20-minute video on that?
But sir, on the flip side, sometimes we get misguided also. For example, I was looking out for learning digital marketing. You know, during the days of pandemic, somebody says that my fees is 2K, I will deliver this, that. Somebody is saying mine is 4K, somebody is saying 1 lakh, somebody is saying 30,000 with different spans. So it took me a lot of time to find out who is genuine and, you know.
Absolutely. See, this is where your social media comes into play very much. And this is where your online presence really matters. See, when you find people giving these claims, the best way is to do an online research. You will find some information about them. Or worse, you can go to, there are a lot of websites which review these kind of things. So like Mouth Shut, a lot of places, you can just type their name. See, disgruntled customers would make every single effort. They leave no stone unturned to make sure that their displeasure is displayed, and they get the satisfaction of outing that this person is not a genuine person. Right? We are living in that age. We are living in the age of Twitter. So if someone is unhappy, all you have to do is just do a Google search of that person. It's going to throw their entire horoscope out. You can go through it. You can make an educated decision on what you want to do. See, that's how at least I make my purchases. Whatever purchases I make and stuff like that, I do my research. I talk to people who have used it, and only then I make my investment. Every single, because I am actually a big fan of gadgets, and I'm actually into audio and video editing as well. I'm also into sound engineering and things like that. So every single gear, that's a very expensive hobby. Yeah. So I need to make sure that I don't throw my money around. So every single item that I buy, I do my due diligence and my amount of research. That applies not just, it applies for everywhere. So that is where, to answer that the other question that was there on branding, see, that is where you need to establish your brand, your credibility, and how you present yourself. And PowerPoint and the way you present your slides is going to play a very critical role in making and presenting you for what you are.
I feel that I have got to relearn PowerPoint again after seeing all these things, you know. We were maybe on the higher side of the age, but one gentleman, as he says, that 30 years and all, probably yes. Is there any avenue that we learn PowerPoint at the latest, this thing? You can suggest anything?
Definitely, sir. We can definitely do something like that. I mean, I do have a more extensive program on PowerPoint, but I mean, we can definitely discuss that. at a future date, because I've been giving
your
it.
interaction of a couple of hours with you had made me feel that yes, a lot of things that we have to probably unlearn and relearn on PowerPoint.
Okay.
I have a question. What is your opinion about the presentation tool Canva?
See, Canva is actually a good source. I mean, they have a lot of professional templates that are available. You can definitely use them. The only thing is you'll have to look at how much money you're going to be spending on it, because each template and each graphic asset that is there inside the template costs money. And of course, when you're using something like Canva, you need to really figure out what exactly is the core messaging and the mood and tone of your core messaging is. Because after making a purchase and you decide that it is going to change for some reason, you'll have to go and make another purchase. So rather than making purchases like that, that is actually the objective of a session like this. You can make it yourself. See, the tips that I've given you today are very, very fundamental tips. I mean, if you apply some of these tips to your existing presentations, blindfold, you can see what's the difference. You just take all of these tips, take one of your existing slide decks, just apply whatever I've said over there. You will see the standard to which your slide deck goes. You will be amazed. You will come back and tell me how amazed you feel about that. You will feel good. See, one of the things I really enjoy when it comes to PowerPoint decks is you get that sense of satisfaction when you apply the right principles and the right design concepts and you're able to create a beautiful slide. It gives you that sense of personal satisfaction. And I mean, that's just me. So this is my opinion on Canva. You can definitely go for something like that, but you need to be careful about what templates you choose and the amount of money you're prepared to invest.
Mr. Vani Manohar, please.
Sir, I have seen people using all capitals on the slides. I don't think, will you think that would be better option?
Okay, so see, using capitals across the slide is never a good idea. If you want to use it in titles, if the style is appropriate, you can. But again, using capitals across the slide is not exactly a great idea, because we all, I mean, being in the digital arena for all these years, we are all familiar with the fact that if you use all caps, we all know what that means.
That's right.
Right. So it's never a good idea. Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vijay, please. Mr. Vijay, you raised your hand. You can unmute and ask the question. Mr. Vijay is not to be there, seen there.
Vijay?
Paul Raj has raised his hand now.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. I am audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you are.
Sir, actually, the session is very good, sir. How to master this PPT skills, sir? Different layout are there. So it is very difficult to, now the new thing is I have learned. So how to incorporate in my career, in my life?
Absolutely. See, whatever steps that I have told you today, this is a good starting point. The moment you apply these principles to your existing slide decks, I'll tell you, you won't believe how those slides look like at the end. You will be so amazed and you will be thinking, man, did I create these slides? See, there is always more and more things that you can learn, but jumping right to the 55th step might not be a prudent idea. So these are some fundamentals that you can use, and this is more than enough to make your slide decks look very, very professional. These may seem basic, but these are very effective strategies. Once you have mastered these strategies, we can automatically push into the next level where there are some tips that I can give. For example, when I was talking to you about the colors, I was talking to you about tetradic colors and things like that. There are techniques where you can use the techniques that you can use to create multicolor palettes for different moods. You have primary and secondary color palettes and things like that. So those will come at an advanced stage. But even without that, this will help you create beautiful slides. this in itself.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
There are no more raised hands. In two more people. Mr. Chandrasekhar is there.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Vaideshwar.
Good evening,
This is Chandrasekhar from Bangalore. Yeah, I have two small questions. I could not get that name of that font you said, Helvetica. Can you just?
Helvetica. Let me just put that on the chat window.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you
spelled
so much.
HELVE. Helvetica. I have put the name on the chat window.
Thank you. I'll note for that. And second thing is, I'm quite surprised that you started your presentation on a full screen. And when we start presenting, it comes into a slide mode, and then we have to go for a presentation mode.
Okay.
I'm really confused.
So you would like to know how I did that, right?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So what you need to do is, before you start sharing your screen, you will have to go into the presentation mode, right? In your PowerPoint. So you keep that in presentation mode. You bring your Zoom window to the front, and when you start sharing, you go to share screen. You will have a number of options over there.
Yes.
In those options, you will see one of the options being the fully shared PowerPoint. The slideshow will be there as one of the options. You select that, automatically the full slideshow will come up.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're
Most
welcome.
of the things I'm already following it. Some of the things are there which I may need your personal attention from your end. So I'll talk to you in person.
Absolutely, sir. Anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Chandrasekhar sir, I see a lot of your good contents in Facebook.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm
Loknaran
just a
Chaudhary
little out of all these things. I'll again resume that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Ram, you may go ahead.
Yes. Hello, Dr. Ram.
Thank you. Yeah, hello, Mr. Vaideshwaran. It is really wonderful, very awesome. You have correctly made the point for the people to better adapt. Myself as a R&D person, usually we have routine presentation. There are many things we have to adapt and present in front of the group or the team members. So there are a lot of skill sets required. Maybe one advice I can give to the people because of you. There are a lot of slides available with the LinkedIn slide share.
Dr. Ram, you are not audible. Can you please speak up?
Can you hear me?
No, we are unable to hear you. Your voice is very low. Please speak up. Take the microphone nearer to you, if possible, please.
Okay, I raise up my mic volume. Is it okay now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Now it's better, sir.
Okay. Because of the volume, I reduced. Thank you for reminding me. The LinkedIn slide shares. There are plenty of slides available. So anybody wanted to adapt a certain template, which is more prominent and efficient for understanding better. And any particular slide, if you want to go for a long presentation, it would be less than a minute, 30 seconds or something less than that. You have to nutshell, because you are filling the bullet points, you can split into different slides. Because if you are speaking too many contents in one slide, sometimes the people may not carry over with it because they are getting bored or distracted. You have clearly mentioned so many things. Definitely it is add-on value as well as giving more support for the people. I wanted to hear more such kind of talks from you to enable and empower the community of trainers as well as speakers. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Ram.
Mr. Atul Vij.
Atulji, yes, sir.
Sir, I use mind maps a lot. Any tips on how to do with mind maps? I'm not able to remove the arms which have come in. So is that okay or?
Okay. So personally, I wouldn't recommend using mind maps on slides. The reason being, see, when you use a mind map on a slide, you put too much of content up here. So you're showing the parent, and then you're showing the branches, and then the sub branches. This creates what is called a cognitive overload. So you might be probably, see, for some learners, you might be a bit slow. For some learners, you might seem a bit fast. So when that is happening, they will get stuck in those branches. And some people might have a doubt. So they may try to go back and read what is there in that previous branch, while you'll be talking 2 branches further down. So this causes cognitive, and by the time they finish processing that, and by the time they come to you, that's too much information for someone to handle. So for cognitive ease, my recommendation will be you can definitely use mind maps for preparing your slide decks, for preparing the content, but I wouldn't recommend showing mind maps as part of your presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So Surendra Sethi.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir.
I must congratulate Vidagri sir. You are the rock star of today. Guys, the last I have to ask any question, no question from my side. Good learning, something you have reviewed of my past, which I was to make my presentation through PPT. Really great learning, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, your name reminds me of our former president, V.V. Giri.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Nice presentation.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Simply super
Great applause to
presentation,
him.
sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thousand salutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So if there are no more questions, I'll probably turn it back to Mohan. And if you have any questions after this, please feel free to drop me a message, and I'll be most happy to answer your questions, sir. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Mohan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Vaitishwaran. It was a wonderful session. The feedback and enthusiasm really reflects what has happened in the last 2 hours. It's great. And friends, there's a lot to learn in this area, and this is just a glimpse of what we have seen today. And as Vaiti has always been telling, it's a practice is what makes us perfect. And more, I would strongly recommend the simple solution that he has given. Go back to the slide decks, implement what has been learned today, so that we ourselves will become in awe with what we have done. So I think that's a wonderful message that we should carry. Having said that, thank you so much for your time and coming over in this platform and joining us and learning. In fact, there's a lot of unlearning as well, as somebody said. There's a lot of learning today in the evening, and we will carry this back home and do a lot of things in our presentation decks. Thank you so much, friends. Welcome you again. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you,
Mohan sir. Thank you so much.
It was nice talking to all of you.
Thank you.
Mohan sir, thank you so much for the platform.
Absolutely a great session and a lot of learning and unlearning.
Okay, if we are done, can we have the meeting closed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so We much. will call it a day. Thank you.
Thank you.